All right, so I'm the founder of a sales agency and I've been selling software for 8 years now. And I have to say, Claude Cowork is one of the biggest productivity unlocks that's ever happened in my career. It's allowed me to reach out to way more prospects, and any prospects that actually do enter my sales process, it's really helped me de-risk those deals and ensure that anything that should close does close for my business. And so today's video, I want to walk through the four main use cases that I use Claude Cowork for. And hopefully as you go through this video, you have a clear understanding of exactly where I'm using AI to really optimize and execute on my sales process to make myself way more efficient and be able to really punch well above my weight class. Now, before we dive in, quick intro to me. My name is Sanjay. As I mentioned, I've been selling software for 8 years. Right now, I have an agency called AccuSales, which really helps startups with their go-to-market strategy and execution. Outside that, on this channel, I also talk about AI engineering. I've been upskilling myself on building AI agents and AI applications as a way to really automate a lot of my business processes and really make myself and my business as lean and efficient as possible. So if you guys like that kind of content, follow me here. But without further ado, let's dive into the content. All right, so the first main use case for me is deep account research using what I call the outbound full skill. So Claude is amazing at aggregating a ton of information and really parsing through what data points are the most relevant to me. So the real world use case is, in the past when I was like a career sales rep, I would go and research an account. I would go find product information. I would go find, hiring signals. I would go, tier the account based on my company's scoring model. And so what I did is I took my account research process, decomposed it, and packaged it into this skill. So what I do now is I give Claude this skill and invoke it, and Claude runs through the exact same sequence I would run through. So this isn't just like generic AI slop research. It, outputs a very deep opinionated read on the company, phrased really in a way that I would phrase it as well if I was writing internal notes on why I'm reaching out to this company. And the goal here is this process used to take me like 30 minutes, either before a sales meeting or before I started prospecting into an account. And now with the skill, it takes about 5 minutes. So the goal is when I'm going to reach out to a new company, I run the skill so I can, formulate the messaging. Or if I land a discovery meeting, I use this skill so that I walk into that meeting with a very opinionated point of view on how my service can help this company. So let's see the skill in action. So here I invoked the skill using the /outbound full command. I asked it to research this company called Mother Duck. So Claude actually spun up a bunch of parallel agents, went through the workflow that I gave it, and then it generated a HTML page. And let me actually share what it generated. So it gave me, let me make this. Okay, so it generated this static HTML page on Mother Duck. And so here it has this disqualifier screener, which if you've been in sales, it's better to disqualify a company before you waste time on even doing any outreach. So past the disqualifier screen, it goes through some of the must-haves for the ICP, whether the account passed or not. And then here it gives a company brief on funding information, what kind of products it has, the community. And the key thing here is the top of this HTML page is really dedicated on outbound. So I take this information, figure out like, hey, they might have just raised a new round of funding, or, here's maybe some opinion on where we could help, which is increasing their pipeline coverage. And this is how I'm going to take this research and formulate my outbound messaging. Now, further down this, there's a ton of information here, as you can probably see how much I need to scroll. There's some buying triggers, but here, if we come down to here, where it actually says pain to servicing mapping, this actually walks through Claude and my hypothesis on what pain this company might be experiencing and how my capabilities or my service maps to solve that pain. And so this is really helpful when it comes to actually walking into that first sales meeting with a strong opinion. And I can come in and say that, you might not have a BDR function that's being built, or you might have this, friction from going from PLG to selling to enterprise accounts. This is where my service can help. And then even going further down, it actually breaks down their go-to-market process and maps it back to where my service or my company can have the biggest impact. So here, maybe not as much. So it says out of scope. Here it's like, okay, outbound prospecting, SDR motion, that's a direct fit where I can add immediate value. And that's missing based on our research. So this is how you can, use this research in Claude Cowork, not just to have highly personalized outbound messages, but also as you prepare for that sales meeting, having an opinion on where to ask questions, where to poke at pain, and where your service can really add a ton of value. So it's great on both sides, right? Both getting the meeting and executing the meeting at a high level. So the second use case for me is to use Claude Cowork to automate connecting with new prospects on LinkedIn. I generate a ton of meetings using LinkedIn, and my strategy has always been to send a blank connection request to a prospect. And then once they connect with me, I actually send a selfie video for about like 60 to 90 seconds explaining why I'm reaching out and why they should take a meeting with me. Now, AI, I don't think is at a point where I feel comfortable using it to generate a video of me that I can mass blast to people. So what I like to use Claude for here in this example is I like to find a list of people within LinkedIn that match my ICP that I feel like I need to get in touch with. And I'll ask Claude to use computer use to connect with these people on LinkedIn. And I'll also ask it not to send a connection request. I feel like the sales industry is like on the fence about this, but I've always just seen more success with getting people to add me to their network when I actually don't have a connection message. So I'm going to ask it to do that. And Claude is actually going to take control of my browser. So if I'm going to give it access here, it's going to go open a separate tab within my Chrome browser, and it's going to go and navigate to LinkedIn and start going through the connection process. So let me actually shift to the Chrome browser so you can see this in action. So we're in Chrome right now. So here is the link that I shared with Claude. Here is the tab group that Claude opened on my Chrome browser. And then here it's actually going through the individual. So it just connected with like Joshua Hoffman. And if you actually just watch it, it'll go through and it'll click into every single person's name. And it'll actually start sending, or I guess it won't send a message, but it'll actually send the connection request. The goal for me here is I have this process run like once a day for like 30 people. LinkedIn will ban your account if you mass connect with like 60 to 100 people a day. So I say super safe with 30 people. And the goal is, once I connect with the 30 people, or I have this running every single day, when I come into the office in the morning, I have, maybe 5 to 8 new connections in my network that I can send that selfie video to. So it takes me about 30 minutes to send 8 videos to, to these people. And so once you get that flywheel going, you can start really generating a ton of meetings in LinkedIn. But the boring part is to actually go in, find people, and do these connection requests. So I automate all that using Claude Cowork. So my third use case is another skill that I've packaged. One of the most important pieces of outbound prospecting is every single email needs to pique interest, but also deliver value. And so what I've been experimenting with using AI for outbound is generating very customized lead magnets that a prospect doesn't necessarily need to opt into, right? Something that you could even charge for, but using AI to generate these lead magnets and then actually attaching them to the outbound messaging. And so we'll see the skill in action, but really the idea behind it is that your cold outbound messages get replies when the prospect actually realizes that you have spent the time to do research about their actual business. And it's not just another cold email that's, a massive mail merge, but, a lead magnet that almost reads like a custom proposal. And let's actually see this in action, because I think it's way easier to actually show this than kind of talk through it. All right, so here's the skill in action. So I'm invoking it by using the /TCO calculator. I also attached the account research from the previous skill, which was the outbound full skill. So I actually gave it the HTML. This is a good way just so you have your Claude agent have the most context on the account as well. And so it's going through the skill, the workflow, and it actually asks a few questions around, who do you want to actually make this lead magnet to? So I asked the head of sales, and then it asked for a couple inputs to actually generate the TCO calculator. And it goes through all of this, and it actually generates a very good, like based on my design guidelines, an HTML static web page, which I can actually host on my website as well, so that it doesn't look like a super sketchy link when I send it to Scott. And then let's actually see what Claude outputted. So if actually, let me move this up. So here's the actual TCO analysis. So it actually calls out Scott in the lead magnet itself. It goes through, some of the account research around the Series B. The founding BDR seat is still open, so they still have an open headcount there. Here's some inputs potentially on, their revenue goals. And then it goes through all of this, and it talks about, headcount required, how much this would cost if you actually execute on your hiring plan. And it goes through all of these assumptions. And then it asks for, do you want like a free sales audit? And then this actually links to, it actually doesn't link to my calendar. This should, but it links to my website directly right now. But the idea is that, this is enough value for Scott to understand that we did our homework and that he would probably find value in even taking the meeting with me. So the fourth use case is actually a double feature. What I like to use Claude Cowork for is actually to prepare for all the things that happen after a discovery meeting as well. So if you're, ever sold software, everyone seems to have like these meeting transcription, meeting recording softwares hopping in all their Google Meets and Zoom meetings. So what I do is I take the transcription from that meeting and I import it or upload it into Claude, and then I give it a template of an Our Understanding slide. So if you've ever sold software, you're very familiar with this concept. You basically have this single slide that captures all the notes from the discussions you have with a customer. And the goal of that slide is to, one, show the customer that, hey, I did pay attention in my meeting, and this is why we're continuing to talk. And then two, you use that slide as a kind of jump off point to ask more discovery questions, to pull out more pain and goals from the customer. So what I do here is I take the transcript from the meeting, put it into Claude, and I gave it a screenshot of the Our Understanding slide template that I like. And then it goes through this process and it actually generates a new slide for me. Now, what I've noticed is this goes straight into my Google Drive, so I can start editing it and doing final touches in Google Slides. Because usually the kind of format looks a little funky, but the goal is to not necessarily look at the visuals here, but the goal is to actually capture all the information in a way that I would capture it, which is really understanding like what's the overview of their business, what's their current sales team size. So it's capturing all the data from the meeting, because sales meetings can go all over the place, that are actually relevant in a deal for my company. And it's capturing that and only that in the Our Understanding slide. Now, as part of the follow-ups, I also give that transcript to a separate chat and ask Claude to review the script and actually generate a follow-up email with next steps as well as a summary. This summary is a little bit different than the Our Understanding slide because I like to have this summary essentially as something that I can send to my internal team so they understand, what is happening in the deal, how did that meeting go. And then the follow-up email is just because, if you've sold software or if you sold anything, you have to like spend time reviewing your notes, trying to draft a really good email. So Claude can at least take 80% of that work off my plate, and I can just make sure the email sounds like something I would send. And so another thing that you can do is actually import any call transcription software, have it update prep like proposals and presentations, and also write that follow-up email based on what was discussed in the meeting. All right, guys, that's the video for today. I'm going to take all the workflows that I just shared with you in this video, and I'm going to take all the skills files and upload them to a repo that I have on my website. So if you want to take these exact same skills and workflows and use them for your business within your own Claude account, I'll leave the link to get these files in the description below. Outside that, if you found the video valuable, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I post weekly on how I'm using AI to grow my company. And if you do have any ideas or feedback, put them in the comments below as well. But outside that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See y'all.